Never Joe, never Joe, never Joe. Oh, money, never money, never money, money, never money, money. Now know what you can have in money, money, never money, never money, money, never money, money. You can keep, you can have in money. When you've been knocked for a bum, in a bills there'll be money. Now because your money done, you come with conniving money. When you had your pocket full, in a bills there'll be money. Now because your money done, you hustle for tell me money. Yes, money, never money, never money, money, never money, money. Now know what you conniving money. Neighbor, neighbor, joker. Neighbor, neighbor, joker. Neighbor, neighbor, joker. That's all the money that me walk for. A 2 pound note and a kill the piece. A 2 pound note and a kill the piece. A 2 pound note and a kill the piece. This is all the money that me walk for. I said money, neighbor, money, neighbor, money, money, neighbor, money, money. Now I know what you can have in money. Oh, Joseph.
this conversation. But I must say something. I don't want to stay long, but I will say something about the big story. And that is the murder of the young man at Golden Grove over the weekend. And once again, we are faced with this thing of what we call extrajudicial killing. And I am saying here that there has always been extrajudicial killing. There have always been extrajudicial, all governments. But what is different today about the extrajudicial killing is that it's systematic. It is systematic. It is part of government policy. All right? This targeting of young black men, this criminalizing of young black men, this setting them up, this sting operation, no, this sting operation is not in Enmore, it's in Golden Grove. The sting operation is not in communities that are supportive of the government. The sting operation is in the opposition community. I am saying opposition, meaning the African Guyanese community. So here is the attempt to use the state. The state is criminalizing young men. We want gun. We want you all to come and sell me gun. But you're encouraging it. That's what you're doing. That is what that sting operation is about. You're not going to get guns off the streets through sting operations. If you're going to get guns off the street, you either use amnesty or you use other means. These sting operations are not meant to get guns off the street. They are meant to kill young black men. And that is exactly what happens. If you're going to sting operation, sting. You don't go on a sting operation and kill. And once again, we have to face this reality. And kudos to the people at Golden Grove who, without any party leader telling them that they need to protest, they came out yesterday and let their voices be heard. And I think it's a vindication of what I've been saying on this program all the time. I've been saying, do not knock people and say they're not doing anything. Human beings are not robots. Up to last week, Wednesday, when I was on, I said, all you need is a spark. Somebody got ill, something happened. That's how struggle operates. And in a sense, the fact that those people at Golden Grove came out for one day, even if it's just for one day, they are showing that they are not robots. If you kill their children, as they continue to do, they are going to take action. Bye.
Sorry.
That's why I don't like muting my microphones. Thank you. I'm saying welcome back to regular programming. Hello, Clement John. Don't call me no big man, boy. Big man is pull cat. You don't know that? Big man pulls cat. Y'all tell me what I mean. Old people say so big man pull cat. And as I'm going to ask you about old people and what I say, I want to know how old you guys are. I want to know where you guys are. I want to know what you did when you were younger and what you're encouraging your children to do. Let me ask this question. Who is Betty Boop? And which cartoon character had to eat spinach in order to get strong? Y'all tell me that. That's a trivia this morning. Who is Betty Boop? And which cartoon character had to eat spinach to get strong or get strength? Good? So I'm saying Dr. Hinds raised an issue this morning there, briefly, which I intended to discuss also, but in the context of Friday's discussion. Remember Friday we were talking about the implements that were found at Lodge Secondary, I think, Campbellville Secondary, wherever. And the issues, I believe, which are responsible for these continuous problems in the schools, in our communities and society at large. Right? And I want to add to the fact that, as they say, an impromptu search later this week, last week, around Thursday, Friday, at the Dolphin Secondary School turned up small Ziploc bags, several of them, with marijuana in a bigger bag or a purse in the female's washroom. Right? No, Betty Boop was not Popeye's wife. Try again. Anyhow, right? My contention is that these issues, first and foremost, they existed before. They might not have been prevalent. And secondly, there are issues which, until such time that governments address community issues, community empowerment issues, issues that affect the poor and downtrodden, these will always exist. They will always be there. An air gun or a regular 9mm pistol or whatever you call it, semi-automatic weapon, whatever you call it, is not cheap. Let's start with that. It's not cheap. And so if you find a youngster who attends a school in a depressed community with it, you must ask yourself, what's the source? What's the source? Where did it come from? Who is this youngster's godfather in crime or godmother in crime? Right? Okay, because this is becoming a distraction to me, let me just give you the answer to these two questions and nobody's to tell me anything about it anymore. Yes, Popeye is a sailor man who had to eat spinach to get strength. And Betty Boop comes out of the Archie comics. Right? Betty Boop, I won't say was Archie's girlfriend, but maybe some female that Archie always wanted to be close to and so on. Right? It's good. So please, y'all know this. I didn't expect, I didn't expect so much interest in this trivia. I will have to set a trivia time so we deal with trivia and we deal with the real issues. Right? Thank you very much. But I thought about asking those questions because, as lighthearted as they may be, I wanted to remind you when you had time to read a comic, when you had time to read Tintin, right? When you had time to read Archie and whoever the others, right? When the girl had times to read their Mills and Booms and so on. What is Karen Black saying? Anyhow, Karen Black, you can explain yourself. Because as simple as those moments look, right? As simple as those moments look, we saw them as pastime. They contributed a whole lot to our growth and development, moral and otherwise. Right? We had an avenue to channel and deal with our stress, if I can call it that. And that very avenue provided information for us as youngsters to help our upbringing, our socialization. Right? Drew Young said she never read them, her parents would not buy them. Yes, Betty and Veronica. Thank you, Shane. Thank you, Desiree. Right? So am I mixing up my characters? Betty Boop as against Betty and Veronica? Or is it a Betty and Veronica? Anyhow. Good. Favorite among boys was the Hardy Boys series. But those books, those comics, they all contributed to, in a large way, who we are. Our youngsters don't do that. They don't read anything. Well, not that they don't read anything. In most cases, they ain't got nothing to read. They're always in a machine on social media and so on. Right? Social media can be a dangerous place. It can be also good. But a lot of people use it for the negatives as against the positives. And a lot of our youngsters are actually negatively socialized by their social media presence. And so when a youngster decides they're going to school with a nines in the waist, because it's dangerous out there, that danger might not necessarily exist in his school, but it exists in his head. The challenges of school might have been just what they were in the 80s. Right? But they're more pronounced now because you see their presence ever so often on social media. Is it TikTok? Is it WhatsApp? Is it Reels? Is it Facebook Live? They're there. Right? So those things too have their impact. I like to tell you our family secrets of mine. My teenage daughter is not on Facebook. At least the last I checked. If she's on Facebook, it means that she has to be a little dishonest to me and is on Facebook with some clandestine name. She's on WhatsApp because of virtual education, etc. But as much as we can protect our children from overexposure, if I can call it that, to violent content and so on, it would be a good thing. Good? Social media is also where our youngsters get to meet a lot of unsavory characters. They're invited to join all kinds of groups. And they network. And they get involved in all kinds of activities. So we come right back to, how does a youngster from a depressed community get financing to acquire a 9mm pistol, 9mm whatever, semi-automatic, AK-47, Glock, whatever the weapon of choice? How does one from a depressed community, a youngster who's at school, get access to such kinds of weapons? Yes, we find that youngster in the community, we find he or she strapped. We lock them away. Right? We lock them away. But we don't go looking for the godfather of crime or that individual. Because we know for a fact that the godfather of crime of that individual is one of the big boys. They say follow the money. Sometimes you have to follow the weapon. That youngster with the weapon is a bottom feeder. Where is its source? The youngster with the marijuana in school to sell, with the pop, what do they call it? Mali in school to sell, or on the street corner selling the cocaine, the sugar, the sour, whatever, these things are all kinds of names. But the youngsters who are on the street corners selling these things, or in the schools selling these things, being bad men and women, or bad boys and girls rather, are the bottom feeders, who are their godfathers and godmothers in crime. Where does a youngster, a teenager, who has never worked a day in his life, in the legal system, let's say, who did not grow up with a gold spoon in his mouth, get money to buy cocaine, equivalent to half a pound, whatever the amount, to sell on the street corner? Cocaine is a big money thing, and also big connection things. It's not every Tom, Dick, and Harry you can go to and get cocaine to buy. There's always a link to a bigger wig when it comes to the cocaine and other illicit drug trade. But we don't see people tracking down or tracing or trying to establish a connection, because in most instances, many of them know the connections. And in many instances, when somebody is killed and gun is found on them, or illicit drugs is found on them, or they're killed in an exchange with the police because of an illicit gun or illicit drugs, it is because they offended one of the bigger wigs. And the coercive arm of the state is now used to exact revenge or justice, or whatever they want to call it, send a strong message to others that this is not acceptable. And so when everybody is crying out for justice from the state agency, there's no justice to be had, because the state agency is in bed with the criminal enterprise, the godfathers and godmothers of crime. David Hinds has said this morning, that there has always been extrajudicial killing. But the difference now is that it is institutional. And I'm saying it is institutional for two reasons at least. One, it is institutional because the state apparatus is being used as enforcers for the criminal on the world in the first instance. That has already been established. Remember the Thomas Carroll affair, where the black clothes was being used as enforcers for Thomas Carroll, the U.S. Embassy official who was selling visas and maybe buying sex and all kinds of things. So that has been established. And what has already been known is that a coercive arm of the state, again, is being used by the state to keep the opponents of the government in line. Right? And so it is institutional for those two reasons. It is the institutions of state that are being used to perpetrate this violence. And it is not only using adults, it is now using our young men and women in the system, in the education system. And that is why they can afford to have pervasive poverties in these communities, because that is their breeding ground. That is where they're able to go and recruit criminal elements or recruit people's children for the criminal enterprise, criminalizing them in the process. Because if I'm hungry, living in a depressed community, a member of a family that can't really help itself because it is working for less than minimum wage, right? And somebody comes, because I'm already poorly socialized, and somebody comes and offers me a hustle, a way out of my poverty, a way up in the criminal enterprise, I'm likely to take it. Why am I poorly socialized? My family is in poverty, no moral strength after generations of poverty, because poverty has this revolving cycle. Very few people are able to step out of that cycle and survive. So it's 4 or 5 generations of poverty you're talking about. Because the system, the political system, has done nothing to change, to handle, to deal with, to address the issues which are responsible for the creation of this poverty in these neighborhoods. And so from one generation to the next to the next. As a matter of fact, you will find younger and younger folks are becoming involved in criminal enterprise. So if the grandfather was involved in crime at 70, if he chose to get involved in crime at 70, you find the grandchildren might have gotten involved at 50. And the great-grandchildren now are involved in their 20s and so on. Because in most instances, they got no way of getting out. Carol Jacobs is asking, saying what she doesn't understand is why adults would even sell or introduce these illegal drugs to these children. They got nothing like poor children in this society or any society. They got the rich and the poor, the haves and the have-nots. And the haves will forever see the have-nots as their tool of getting more. It got nothing to do with poor children. I guarantee you that. Right? So here it is. You grow up in a family that you recognize grandfather is hustling weed for a don somewhere up the line. But weed is not a big money thing. Grandfather might be afraid to get involved in the cocaine business because he understands that it is worse and it is more dangerous. And he doesn't want to get entangled in the big league. And so you as a second or third generation, somebody comes and tell you, yeah, your grandfather been hustling for we all the time, you know, but we got a new product that the man want thing, you want to try it? Watch over the road there. You see the one? The one me walking for we all the time. Where you think you get a car from? Inducement. Because of the poor circumstances and lack of proper socialization and lack of proper support system, etc., the youth takes a bite. And he now is seen as a don, or he now becomes a don, dependent on the role they have for him. And he is used to lure others into the business. But when the hammer falls, what you see are young black men and women in the school system, out of the school system, in the communities, being found with guns and illicit drugs and illicit weapons, all kinds of things. But where is the connection? Have we searched for the connections? There are people in high offices in this society who knows where the connections are. There are people who can tell you who is the man at the office of the president that you need to go to. He's a doctor. To buy a firearm license. There are people who can tell you who is the contact at the Ministry of Home Affairs, the ministry that Brock Ben runs, who you need to go to there to buy a firearm license. I can tell you that much. People know. There are people who can tell you who is now in charge of the cocaine distribution following the demise of a certain person in this society. Who is now the don. The Mali and the pop and the sugar and the sour. And the marijuana, where you can go to get the best jammy weed. They have people who know. Are you telling me the authorities don't know? The authorities that can set up a sting operation to entrap a villager, another young black man, for having an illegal gun or whatever else they want to plant on him. You're telling me they don't know the sources of these things? My information is this. The current PPP administration has a group. Well, they have always had groups in the Guyana Police Force. But this one seems to be a bigger group, a more well-organized group. Not as clandestine as they would like it, because we have the information. The particular group of policemen and women that this current administration is relying on to quote-unquote control the young black men who perhaps they see as a threat to them with the excesses that they are dishing out on the people. There is this group of police men and women that this administration has in place to quote-unquote neutralize what they see as a threat from young black men. Who are the young black men? The young black men are those especially who have been exposed to military training. So if you're a former member of the Guyana Police Force, or you're a former member of the Guyana Prison Service, or you're a former member of the Guyana Defense Force and so on, you're hunted, you're endangered by the actions of this administration. They have their goon squad that is going to lure you with the aim of entrapment. They can either get a good drug deal for you, or a good gun deal for you, Somebody looking to buy a gun, they call the gun nasty gal or dirty gal. Illegal guns, that's what they call him. Dirty gal. Oh, there's past woman, right? Dirty gal. Hey, I want a dirty gal. And the thugs on the street know the slang, so they know, I could get a link. What I request usually is one to set you up. There has been an incident in Buxton here several, maybe months ago. Most of you might have read it. Of a youngster being arrested in the vicinity of the gas station. The report said that the youngster was called from wherever he was to meet somebody in the vicinity of the gas station to transact some business. Many assume that it was illegal business, it was illegitimate business. But our information says that the youngster was called, he was offered a job by this person prior to the meeting at the gas station area. A legitimate job, farmhand. The arrangement was that here, you will take care of me because I'm going to, when I leave, I have to spend so many weeks and so on this farm and thing. And my family has to survive while I'm away. So the day-to-day hustle which I am here to do, to put food on the table, I won't be here to do, so you're going to left something in advance. That was agreed to, and that youngster got the card. And when he turned up and got into the vehicle, I understand the vehicle was swarmed by plainclothes police. The next thing he knows, he is being charged, or an allegation is being put before him that he was attempting to sell an illegal firearm. Despite the fact that when he entered the vehicle, he noticed a number of firearms in the vehicle. So this was no ordinary vehicle. This was a vehicle with people moving who had firearm in the car. The vehicle was swarmed and he was accused of being in possession of an illegal firearm to sell it. It's called entrapment. I understand it's a similar, perhaps a similar matter of setup in this Golden Grove issue. I don't have all the facts, but what I can sit here and say is clear murder. You can't tell me otherwise. It's clear murder. Even if you have a sting operation, first and foremost will have people in strategic areas to prevent the subject of the sting escaping under any means necessary, or reducing the chances of this person getting out of this dragnet because it's a sting operation. So you're setting up a dragnet. And according to the folks on the ground, the young man was shot anywhere between 6 and 8 times. Several shots to the back, and one definitely to the head. Execution. Crime scenes investigators will tell you, if a man is shot to the back or injured in the back in any way, it will suggest that he's not being a threat to you because his back is to you. He's running away from you. And so what necessitates shooting the young man in his back, if it is that he's backing you, he's running away from you? What necessitates, even if he posed a threat, let's say he posed a threat to you, what necessitates 6 to 8 bullets? Talk to me. Anything more than 1 or 2 shots, 1 or 2 bullets, suggesting excessive use of force, even if it was justifiable force. Excessive use. And so from whichever angle you want to analyze it, as far as I'm concerned, that young man was murdered. Word on the street is, it was a setup. The police were used to exact revenge, to send a message. So here you have extrajudicial killing, as Dr. Hinds explained, institutional. The institution of the state was used. To end the life of this young man for whatever, quote unquote, the crime he might have committed against whoever. Are we going to have a thorough investigation? By who? To conclude what? To identify which bigwig? This is what I want you all to understand. And this is what we've been saying all the time. That this administration has in place and will continue to put in place apparatus that will allow the black youths especially to be hunted and murdered in this country. And as a people, we will have no justice whatsoever. None. The only way to protect yourself is by taking preemptive action. That's my position. The best form of defense is offense. Don't sit back and wait and say it's not going to bother me. Don't sit back and tell yourself that this is them problem, not mine. This problem is all of our problem. Golden Grove now. Buxton a few weeks ago with entrapment. Last week, you had an issue in Sapphire where a young man was shot. No, or shot at by the police. Their version of events are totally inverse to the residents' version. What the police reported, the residents have contradicted. And again, I'm saying if I were to check the credibility of anybody, I will take the credibility of the residents over the credibility of the police. Because in the Orange Boston murder, the police were quick to issue a statement that said that the now deceased, murdered Orin, attempted to disarm a policeman while he was asleep. We eventually found out that Orin was killed in his sleep, murdered in his sleep. And again, that was an institutional murder, because our information suggested that the murder of Orin Boston by now should have left the shores of this country. I don't know if he is here still. He was holding out in Linden, and the price that he was paid to murder Orin Boston was $1 million or something like that. And so arrangements were being made to get him out of the jurisdiction while he stayed in Linden. And so if we were to go back then, we got the Orin Boston murder. We got the murder of the guy on East Bank Highway. I most times forget his name. Guy shot from the back of in the back seat of his car, or from the back seat of his car by police. We have this Sapphire incident which the residents are saying is nothing of the sort, as the police are saying. Come to Golden Grove. Residents are saying nothing of the sort. In fact, I saw a video last night. I think the video is on one of the popular news sites, of a young man running away from the police, being chased by the police. So if I'm running away, if I'm being chased and I'm running away, what threat do I pose to the police? What threat do I pose to the police? Yes, Peter Headley is the person I was talking about in the car. Y'all talk to me. Are you seriously thinking about sitting back and waiting for the state to protect us? It wouldn't happen. The state is not for us. The state has its own agenda of dominion, and it is using the state's apparatus to achieve that dominion, like it or not. So what do you do? What should you do? I said the best defense is offense. The best defense is offense. Dexter is pointing out that school children were on the road when the police were, as we say, licking shot left, right, and center. What would have been the excuse had somebody's child been hit? Huh? Y'all tell me. But that could be for another discussion. Or we could recognize from the behavior of that group of policemen that they were nothing but mercenaries. They didn't care what the outcome was so long as they got their target. And they knew that there's protection awaiting them. And so you're told that this special branch policeman is in the lockups at Vigilance Police Station, and a thorough investigation will be had. That special branch policeman is in the lockup at Vigilance, if he is, for his own protection. He's there for his own protection. Next you will hear he's on close arrest, and then he's on open arrest, and then he has disappeared from the system. Because that's how they do it. But if they say violence begets violence, if that policeman had to fear that while he is in the vigilance lockup, his family, his relatives, his family members will be exposed to serious dangers, reprisal from the family of this young man that he murdered, he might have thought twice about doing it. How about that? I am saying violence begets violence. I am saying that the best defense is offense. And the time has been here a long time ago, and the time is still here. And until the system changes, the time will be here when citizens must make policemen and other members of the coercive arm of the state stop to think about their actions before they even do them. There was a time in this country when policemen and women feared being identified as policemen and women. They feared wearing their uniforms as policemen and women. They feared going into the very communities that they lived as policemen and women. And so they treaded a thin line. They treaded a thin line. They walked a narrow line. Citizens were endangered, but so too were policemen and women. Not so much so the members of the joint services, the army officers and so on. Not so much them. Policemen and women were just as endangered as they made citizens. It's a terrible thing when the hunter becomes the hunted. But it is also a good thing when the hunter knows that he can be hunted. Are we going to experience teaches wisdom? The PPP is using its experience of the past, what it had to deal with confronting young black men who were standing up, according to them, for a cause. Albeit it turned out to be a big criminal enterprise, including drug lords and political leaders and so on. But the PPP recognized that ex-military people played a meaningful role in that struggle. And now they are prepared to eliminate that threat by entrapping them, by murdering them, using the system, using the institutions of the state. And so we have to recognize, experience has to teach us that if we sit back and allow this to continue to happen, at the end of the day, we will be the biggest losers. We will be the biggest losers. Our communities will be the biggest losers. Our families will be the biggest losers. And so the good book says, if your right hand going to offend you, cut it off. They might look like you, but they necessarily are of you. Run them out of your communities. Many of you like to watch African movies. When people misbehave, they get banished to the wilderness. Banish them to the wilderness. Oh, you want to bring destruction among us and you live among us? Get out. Go and live among those who are sending you to cause destruction. So when we see your pair, we know that you were sent and we will know to deal with you. Separate yourselves from them. So when you see them, you know this is the enemy. Looks like us, but is not necessarily of us. So while this young man is in vigilance lockup, or wherever they have him, for safekeeping, he should have been wondering, is my family as safe as I am in here? Other families should be looking on and say, my son, do not expose me to the danger that that policeman exposed his family to. Do you remember what happened to that family or that policeman that did that to that young man? Please, I'm begging you, my son, I know you're in the police force, please walk this straight and narrow way. Don't allow this to happen to our family. Y'all know what I'm saying? One of my favorite actors is Samuel Jackson. Was he the man who acted A Time to Kill? The lines are open. 622-5933 is the number to call. 622-5933 is the number to call. There's a time for everything. The good book tells you there's a time for planting and there's a time for plucking out. There's a time to be born and there's a time to die. There's a time to sit idly by and there's a time to rise up and defend your damn selves. You determine what time you're in now. Phone you answer, keep calling. Just now. Very straight. Call it live, good morning.
Good morning, my brother. With everything that you have fed the people this morning, you know what they're interested in? They're interested in more focus on the banning of sking or whatever you need, who has no effect on them economically or socially.
8.2 miles, turn right onto Northeast
You know,
18th Avenue.
they're all interested in that. They won't run and protest, you know, the killing of these people. They won't run and protest the woman that got spit on. They won't run and protest Trevor Bell, you know, but they're interested in skin, has absolutely no effect on them economically or socially, you know. But we continue to, you know, put our focus in places that matter. And you just keep feeding them every day, feeding them every day, feeding them every day, and you're not picking up. It's a sad thing, though. Yep, that's all I have to say.
Thank you, caller. I'm interested in the banning of skank too. I think it's an attack on the artist's right to live, to earn, to perform. Many are going to say, Kidaki, you talk with two mouth the other day, you were criticizing the concert. Yes. I criticized the concert, I criticized the performance of a particular song. I said, artists and creatives have a right to work. The agencies of the state have a responsibility to ensure that rules are followed when they work. Keep that in mind. Right? What happened at the skank show was because of the failure of the state and its apparatus. It wasn't because of skank. Because they knew who skank was. A snake will bite. You have to put systems in place to protect yourself from the snake's bite. But we're not talking about skank this morning. So let's change the discussion. Right? Keith Anthony Ben said he watched the movie last night, A Time to Kill. If the state is killing you, you have to decide how you protect yourself from the state killing you. Right? Talk to me. 6225933 is the number to call. Like, y'all ain't got nothing to say on this issue. Y'all like it as it is. What they say, silence breeds contempt. No, familiarity breeds contempt. Silence is consent. So y'all consent to this order. morning. Morning, neighbor, morning, morning. Let's get ready to rumble. Good morning. Welcome to another program of Buxtonian Morning Time. It is now 7 hours 18 on the 15th day of June in the year 2022. I'm your host, Kidaki Amsterdam. We're coming to you live from the studios of KAMS TV located at Buxton, and coming to you obviously on social media. Well, we know why we are on social media, but you know what? Like I was reminded yesterday, the Pirates anthem. They might call us pirates. They might call us illegal broadcasters. Just because we play what the people want. Well, we say what have to be said on KAMS TV. We say what have to be said on the Buxtonian Morning Time. And that is so aggravating to some people. They don't like it. Right? They don't like it. But we will continue to say it. It's not a, what they say, popularity contest. A mission of truth. It's a battle for good over evil. It's a fight against the wrongs of this illegitimate cabal and the cohorts. And so we're not going to back down. Share the life. It's Wednesday morning. We're going to have Dr. David Hinds in the house. And we're going to be talking things. Yesterday we were in Golden Grove. And we were grounding, as the WP likes to say. We were grounding with the villagers. It was a good feel, I can tell you that, man. And grounding is important. Very, very important. You have to go to where the people are and talk with the people and find out what aches, what irks, what bothers the people. I'm in the Zoom. Me not see you though. Right? So you have to go sometimes, and you go and, you know, and talk with the people, share with the people, meet the people. And I usually say we do what we do here on this platform, but based on the density of the population in terms of internet access, you know that all the work can be done on these platforms. You have to get out into the communities and work with the folks. Lots of people don't have access to food, much less data. Good? But nevertheless, we have Dr. Hinds in the house today. Dr. Hinds, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you doing, sir?
I am doing fine.
I'm getting no video from you.
I think we're going to fix that shortly. Go right ahead.
Okay, all right. Well, it's Wednesday as usual. Aren't you pink shirt by is pink or orange?
Orange.
Your shirt matching your blind though. It's blue around the neck, you know? I wonder who is your fashionista?
The struggle has no fashion. The only fashion of the struggle is confronting dictatorship, confronting wrongs. There's no fashion with that.
Well, I certainly agree there's a lot of wrongs to be confronted. And some people want to confront the wrong in style. They want to wrong them out and be politically correct and so on in confronting the wrongs. Nevertheless, we were...
There is place for that. There's place for that. I mean, you know, no one tendency, no one group, no one individual has a monopoly on struggle. Struggle has to come from all angles. If Walter Rodney used to say, if a person can lift 1 pound, let them lift a pound. Those who can lift 5 pounds, let them lift 5 pounds. You have to see the struggle as all inclusive. This is not time to divide. This is time to come together. All of us have sinned and come short. The Christians will tell us. All of us have made mistakes and will make mistakes in the struggle. We have to create the conditions for everybody who is opposed to wrongdoing, everybody who is opposed to dictatorship. We have to find a place for them. That's my mission. There is a time and place for everything. There is a time we will cuss one another. There is a time when we will criticize one another. I am on a mission of unity. Unity against dictatorship, regardless of our differences. We have to turn differences into diversity.
So, as we say, whosoever will may come.
No, that's not what I'm saying.
I'm just checking.
That's not what I'm saying. It's not whosoever will may come. It's that whosoever wants to confront wrongdoing, whosoever wants to confront dictatorship from their own perspective, we have to find a place for them in this mosaic, in this broad framework of dictatorship. Dictatorship is not a narrow framework, it's a broad framework, because the dictatorship does not discriminate, and we who are fighting dictatorship cannot discriminate. But it doesn't mean whosoever will may come.
Well, very well. I had to get that clarification, because some people believe that a willingness to broaden the coalition, as I would call it, is an opportunity for the Charandasis to have an impact.
No, obviously nobody's talking about that, and you have no control over Charandasis. I keep my mantra: you cannot direct struggle. And so therefore, as you struggle, you are going to make mistakes, you are going to make miscalculations, and you have to live with that. But you have to be nimble enough on your feet and in your mind to pivot when you come up against those things. So I'm not worrying this morning about Charandasis. I'm not worrying about all those.
Good. And I suspect, just as you're not worried about all of those things, you're not worried about folks like Harry Gill saying that we're inciting and he's going to report us and so on and stuff like that. Is it that your internet is unstable? I see you're stuck there. Yes, and your display is showing red.
Not just about you getting it right from your own perspective. It's also about touching the cross of dictators. And they don't like that. And they would like to think that we are useless. Oh, we don't influence anybody. Oh, we don't have any support. Oh, we don't this and oh, we don't that. But every day the people, you people, I want you all to peep.
It's a good observation. Because I didn't want to upset what I would say the peaceful nature of the program, the symposium, symposium Monday last. I didn't mention it. But I noticed Harry Gill was on that program because the WP. Oh, we good for nothing. We can't even fix the internet and so on and so forth. And here again this morning he's on the program, I understand, and he's threatening that we are inciting, and he's going to record us and report us and so on. If we good for nothing and we are not having an impact, what is Harry Gill doing here? You got time to waste.
Mr. Harry Gill, please record me. And I want you to share it because it will give me more publicity. Please record me and share it to all your PPP supporters and others. I want them to hear me. Yes, I'm inciting. I'm inciting against dictatorship. I'm inciting against those who would want to dominate our society. I'm inciting against racism. I'm inciting against bad government. And I am proud of it. I've been doing it for 45 years. Long before you. So help me. I fear no man this morning.
Very well. Yesterday we went out there to Golden Grove. A group of us from WP went to visit with the relatives, the mother and son of QUINTON BACCHUS. That young man who was murdered last week by a special branch rank of the Guyana police force. While the Guyana police force has been making all kinds of statements, I say all kinds of statements because there are different versions out there as to the genesis of this murder. We were able to learn a few things from the community. Also, we were exposed to some videos which definitely remove all doubts that this was murder. We witnessed Clifton Aiken visiting with the family and promising that a thorough investigation will be undertaken by the Police Complaints Authority. We are convinced, because we have other evidence, that this is not an incident or an accidental shooting. We're convinced that this is, like we have described it, murder, premeditated murder. And so I'm inviting you this morning to comment on some of the findings, the actions of the police in the light of what we understand is perhaps policy of the now government to use the police force to target in Afro-Guyanese communities certain individuals with a particular skill set.
Well, you know, I like to start with the general. And the general is the government and the state. The government and the state are creations of the society. We create a government and we create a state to do certain things. And one of the things the state is supposed to do, and the government that is in office is supposed to do, is to protect the rights of citizens. Governments don't give citizens rights. The state doesn't give us rights. We are born with rights, human rights. As human beings, we have rights that we are born with. And the state is supposed to protect that right, those rights. The right to life is perhaps the most sacrosanct right. It's a right that all citizens must be guaranteed. The right to life, because all other rights flow from that right to life. And as we speak here this morning, one young man the state did not protect his right to life. The man who shot that young man did so while he was acting as an agent of the state. And so he had the authority of the state as he shot that young man and killed him. Let us understand that. That's where we start. Whether we are a bad boy, good boy, church boy, whatever boy, each of us has the right to life. And when an agent of the state takes away the right of a citizen to life, then we have a crisis of tremendous proportions on our hand. Some people are talking about some beef between the shooter and young Bacchus. Well, people have beef with each other every day. Every day. You don't have any control of that. You don't have any control of that. But the issue here is not private beef. The issue here is that one man with a disproportionate power over another man, one man acting as an agent of the state, took away the life of another man, murdered him. That is the issue here. The second issue is that after that action, what does the government do? Does the government move towards guaranteeing justice to the family of the slain man? Because one of the functions of the government is also to ensure equal justice. I'm dealing here with the functions of the government and the state. The state has to protect our rights. The state did not protect the right of the young man. He was killed. Having killed him, does the state guarantee justice? Because one of the functions of the state is to promote justice. Equal protection before the law. And the state has engaged in the business of cover-up, which now brings the state complicit in the action of an agent of the state. The state can no longer say that agent was acting on his own. If that agent was acting on his own, then that agent should be before the court. I understand from reading in the press that a policeman was shooting up in Golden Grove on Sunday. This is after Bacchus was killed. And he was shooting up in Paradise. And he was before the magistrate yesterday, charged with discharging a firearm within 100 feet of people and so on and so forth. If you can bring that other cop before the court, why can't you bring the killer of Bacchus before the court? That's my question this morning. You can bring another policeman who was discharging a firearm. He didn't kill anybody, but he was discharging a firearm in two places, Paradise. You got that evidence because people paid him.
Also, Dr. Hinds.
But yesterday, why is Bacchus not before the court? Sorry, not Bacchus, shooter of Bacchus. Not before the court for murder.
But Dr. Hinds, let me point out also that the killer of Bacchus has been identified by certain quarters as one of the gunmen at the Skeng show.
Yeah, yes, we understand that.
And the police
I am dealing here with Bacchus.
Yes, but
I'm not going to Skeng show yet. Okay.
Because the point I'm making is that just as the policeman from Golden Grove was brought before the court for disloading, discharging the loaded firearm, this killer from Special Branch should have also been brought before the court. Your connection is bad. You're stuck again.
Killing Mr. Bacchus. And we're talking about the same day, another shooter carried on and disloading firearm. One shooter is brought before the court, and another shooter is not brought before the court. The police have to explain that. And I will explain it for them. One shooter committed murder. One shooter is part of a larger plot to criminalize young black men in our villages. One shooter is carrying out the designs of the political bosses. And so that shooter is protected. The other shooter that was brought before the court is collateral damage. Because the police want to show, look, we are fair. Another shooter shoot up, look, we put him before the court. We are fair. We are being fair. Look, one of our own we put before the court. But the one who took life is not before the court. The police are playing games. And the games they're playing is on the direction of the bosses. I want us to be very clear about what we are dealing with. Do not get confused and sidetracked. You know, sometimes when people don't get the large picture, they engage in the small picture. You know, so the two men had a beef, that is why the man get killed. Now the man didn't get killed because two men had a beef. The man get killed because the government and the state have signaled a policy of eliminating young black men, first of all compromising them, and then eliminating them who have certain military skill. And what transpired there was in pursuit of that policy of the political bosses of the government. You want to be very clear about that. Very clear about that.
And so in the whole scheme of things, of the political bosses protecting one of the operatives, let me point out that our research information that has come to me suggests that this is a known operative. So we're not guessing, as we like to say. The incidents recorded in places like Sapphire of him abusing people with the use of the firearm. I mentioned his presence at the Skeng show, and there are lots of other allegations against this bad boy for the political bosses and the rogue squad, if I can call it that, of the Ghana Police Force. Like you likely said, it is apparent, it is clear as day as far as I'm concerned, that moves are afoot to not bring this shooter to justice, not ensuring that he faces the full brunt of the law on this issue. We are already hearing of discussions that there was a possible other person who did the shooting and not this guy that is in custody right now, assuming that the claim that he's in custody is accurate. What's your reaction to that kind of information that points to a possible cover-up, perhaps bigger than the one that took place in the Boston murder?
There is police work and there is political work. They're related. I am not interested in police work. I'm not a forensic expert and all of those things. And I hear all those things that you're mentioning about this person. I do not want to confine this thing to police work and police technicality. Because if you confine the police technicality and you're hiding, you are shielding the political bosses. I'm interested in the political connection. I'm interested, and I cannot know the political connection from what the guy did. I can know the political connection by how the political government and state react after he did what he did. And that's my interest. And I appreciate all the little police thing that you're telling me about and so on. But that's for people, that's for the lawyers and so on, right? I am interested in here in the political connection. And I can only know the state is connected, the government is connected by how they have acted in the wake of what happened. And the way they have acted in the wake of what happened suggests that this is part of broad policy. They are protecting the killer. They are coming up with a story a day. They are threatening to go after those who are protesting the killing rather than the killer. And for me, that compromises the political bosses.
And so the community has reacted. People are being targeted, people are being pointed out, people are being threatened. Another political connection, obviously, and another infringement of the right of the people to protest. We saw the day when leader of the opposition, Aubrey Norton, visited with the relatives and friends of BACCHUS. He was, what should I say, tagged by the police all along the way and had to confront them. What does that say about the state and its actions in these issues? Its involvement.
Well, you have to add something else to the story. In today's newspapers, the commissioner of police is reported as saying that he did not and does not know of the trailing of Aubrey Norton in the Stafford News. Stafford News spoke to him last night, and he said he doesn't know. Stafford News spoke to the commander there on the East Coast. He said he doesn't know. The policemen said they were given orders.
By whom then?
Hold on. If the commissioner didn't give order, he didn't know. The commander didn't give order, he didn't know. But these policemen, in the full glare of the world, said they were given orders. And who gives them the order? Who's lying? We don't have to go to court to figure out who's lying. It's the bosses who are lying. Or if the commander and the commissioner, if they didn't give the order, so then it's the political bosses who gave the policemen orders. The political bosses give them orders, the commander give them orders, or the commissioner give them orders. Whichever one give them orders, they were not acting on their own. It's a conspiracy. It's a conspiracy of the state and the political bosses. Because those policemen are agents of the state. And if their institutional bosses, meaning the commander and the commissioner, didn't give them, then they're taking orders from political bosses. They have to figure that out. We know what's happening. There's no mystery. It's either the commissioner or the commander gives the orders, or political bosses give the orders. Because the young man said they were given orders. Commission is on record. The command is on record as saying that they have not given orders. So I am concluding here this morning that the orders came from the political body.
Does this signal that we are perhaps in the presence of the phantom force in another...
We have long been in the presence of the phantom force. They never died. They never died. They operated under the radar while the coalition was there. Some may slap the coalition in their faces for saying that they should have rooted out and break up the phantom. The coalition will say they had 5 years and they couldn't break in 5 years. Fact matter, the phantom was sleeping. They were sleepers during the 5 years. And once the 5 years were over, all they did was to come to the surface, float to the surface. So it's not the re-emergence. It's the waking up of the phantom. We have been a phantom society, but Professor Clive Thomas, our WPA co-leader, from the criminalization of the state. You see, you changed a government in 2015. What you didn't change was the nature of the state. And we have to always remember that, because sometimes they're confused. That when you have an election and you change the government, they think, well, no, you don't change the state, you change the government. That government then has to engage in lawmaking. They have to engage in engineering to change the state. The state remained intact. What the coalition government did was to put a brake on public disorder by, remember, the phantom and the state, they're linked together, the criminalization of the state. So the phantoms just woke up, opened their eyes because they were playing like they're sleeping. Oh God, may sleep. And then it came and it proved that they were just faking that they were sleeping. They were there all, they were sleepers, but they weren't dead. Lessons to be learned. Lessons to be learned. And you are concerned about where the society is going, you use that power to turn the society back from the brink. Whether the coalition saw that as its task, not just to put the phantoms to sleep, but to root out the conditions, to change the conditions under which phantoms are nurtured. That's the task of a revolutionary government. It's not just to exchange. It's not just to stop phantoms from killing. It's to remove the conditions under which phantoms are nurtured. And I'm saying, I'm sure that the coalition government will argue that it did not have time to do that, and want us to see with that. But my evidence, my quarrel with the coalition government while it was in office, did not fully understand its historical past. If for 20-odd years you had a phantom criminalized state and you got power, if you are against dictatorship and you put your energies from day one, you clear the deck, so that not only the phantoms will go, but the condition of phantoms thrive must go. That was always my quarrel with the coalition. It did not understand its historical moment. Now, to be fair, politicians do politics. Governors govern. People like myself who happen to study these things, we provide the intellectual information to the governors. We do the analysis and we say to them, look, this moment is pregnant with possibilities. That you have the historical burden, not just of stopping phantoms, but stopping and cleaning up conditions under which phantoms thrive. And all over the world, people listen to their intellectuals. Because governments govern. In fairness to them, their business is not to study conditions and historical conditions. That's for people like myself. But if you don't listen to people like myself, the thinkers and so on, then because one is critical of the coalition, be careful about what we are critical of them for not doing. They can't do what they haven't studied. And that is why there is a role. I started the program this morning and said there is a role for all of us in the movement. Some of us are thinkers, some of us are mobilizers, some of us are people who come up with policies, some of us implement the policies, some of us come from the angle of the law. All of us. There's a role for all of us in the movement. The movement against oppression, and also whenever that movement gets government, there's a role for all of us. But you know, we train our people to chat. What they bring to the table. What they bring to the table.
Experience teaches wisdom. The last
Well,
time,
I hope it does. I hope it does. I hope it does, because we think that this struggle is a plaything. It's not a plaything. We are dealing here with people's lives, livelihood. A little child is left without a father. A woman is left without a husband. A mother is left without a child. A grandmother is left without a grandchild, 25 years old. I don't care. Young man made mistakes. All of us made mistakes. All of us. All of us. That's not the issue here. The issue here is that people's lives are on the line. If you don't do the right thing, if you play around with then you are exposing your people. So those of us who are leaders, who are not putting our fingers on the right button, we are not confronting the dictatorship as we should. As we play around and not quick enough, then it leaves the dictatorship with more space to do what it. And the dictatorship uses that space to eliminate people every day. It uses that space to deprive people of an economic sustenance. And we, as leaders on our side, we also have to take our own responsibility. That young man was killed because another young man pulled the trigger. Young man pulled the trigger with the full force of the state. And the state and government must take responsibility. But we on the opposition side, who are playing around, who are not recognizing that this is not a moment to be talking about election. I have said that elections are important, but at this moment, we have to be talking about the current present danger, the economic danger to our people, the political danger, the danger to their lives. Everyday souls are passing away. While we are talking about elections years down the road, I ain't say we mustn't have an election, but we must also talk about saving our people from being killed, murdered. The ball is in our court also.
I was saying the last time we saw this kind of dispensation, more than 1,400 black men were murdered. Perhaps with little pushback. How does the society react and deal with this?
I don't know. You go with that question again. The societies react in Golden Grove. Let's focus on that. Don't ask how the society is reacting. Ask what we can do with the reaction that is taking place here.
The residents of Golden Grove have reacted.
Yes.
But it's not a localized problem.
Well, it starts in local. It starts there. And we cannot poo-poo that.
Certainly not. As a matter of fact,
National reaction don't fall from the sky. National reaction don't fall from the sky. The young man who was killed by police, was killed in Minnesota. And the reaction started there and moved out, not just to the rest of Minnesota, to the rest of America, the rest of the world. Don't poo-poo the local. It has to start somewhere.
And so should we be seeing, or should we be seeing, what should I say, solidarity coming from other sections of the society? Because like I usually say that one of the problems in our society is that everybody sees the other person's struggle as their struggle, as an individual struggle. So far, I don't hear of any quote-unquote national outcry or people joining the actions in Golden Grove there to show solidarity. Are we likely to get a situation where Golden Grove alone stands alone?
I am not in the business of predicting struggle. Said that to you every day. I do not predict struggle. I do not predict what will happen tomorrow. I dare not, because you're dealing with human beings. And you cannot predict human beings. You can use history in order to come to some conclusions. All right? The people of Golden Grove have come out on the street on their own accord. I have urged, and I'm urging people on the East Coast and wherever you are to go and join that protest. The least you could do is do that. And let's see where it goes. The task of people like myself is not to direct struggle and predict struggle, but it's to explain what is happening and use that explanation as part of preparing our people. That some little boy, some little girl who is listening to us this morning in BV or Plaisance or Mahaica will say, I get it. And I am going down there tomorrow to join that struggle. You and I will never know that little boy or girl unless they tell us. Let's do our work. Leave the prediction to those with agendas. I read in the newspaper this morning that I was at at Victoria and urged Guyanese to undermine the government. And I had one person I was speaking to, and a homeless woman. But you have to understand that the people are doing their propaganda. You know, they know the power of what was happening there. It's we who don't sometimes understand the power of what people. I understand it. And I understand that I'm a thorn in more than their skin. They don't want me to speak to black people. They don't want me to speak to Guyanese. And they don't want me to. It means that more I want to.
And so in the interest of educating the nation, the society, the young black men and women, this operation which resulted in the murder of young Quinton BACCHUS is being pronounced upon as a sting operation. And again, information have shown us that this sting operation or these sting operations are only being executed in black communities. What is the significance of this kind of approach in relation to the politics that is currently unfolding?
It highlights the racial dynamics of the society that we black people are wrong with. Some of our best minds talk about class. All of us are poor. And even PPP supporters are feeling the brunt of the PPP sting. I don't know where we get that nonsense from. But what it does is that it allows us not to talk directly about what's happening. That don't go for me. No. The ethnic groups do not feel the effects of the dictatorship the same way. There is a direct assault on one section of the society. There may be, and there are, let me take back the maybe, there are indirect consequences for the Indian community. They're not going to feel it now. They're going to feel it later. Right now, they are being assuaged. They're being pampered. They're being fooled. They're being, the government, the PPP is playing on their fears. And so therefore, there's not a direct consequence right now. Nobody's carrying out sting operation in Indian areas. So they're not seeing their young children die. They're not seeing their young men murdered by police. They're not. And so therefore, the direct consequences are not facing them. Direct consequences are facing Black people. There are indirect consequences for the Indian community. They must be. Because when a government becomes a dictatorship, it doesn't discriminate. A dictatorship in the end consumes its own people. So yes, I grant that. The potential dangers for the Indian community is going to come down the line. But the direct dangers today is the African Guyanese community. And we have to be frank about that. And don't engage in this blasé nonsense that Indian people are suffering through. Yeah, Indian people are suffering normal suffering. They got to go in the shop and pay the same prices that we are paying and so on and so forth. The price of plant, the price of whatever, they are facing that. Yes. But in terms of the collective fundamental right to life, they don't face those fears. They don't. And we have to be frank of, and that's why they don't like somebody like me. Because they want me to engage in that blasé nonsensical talk. How are we suffering? Oh yeah, all of us are suffering. It's multiracial and all that nonsense. It's nonsense. It's nonsense. Indian communities don't wake up in the morning to see their dead sons. They don't have to bury their children against the backdrop of murder by the state. They don't. There's not an Indian or in Boston. There's not an Indian Peter Andy. There's not an Indian Shawnee Elders. There's not an Indian Quinton BACCHUS. So what are you telling me? That you want me to engage in nonsensical talk as some of my comrades do. And when I engage in this talk, they say, oh, David Hinds pulling Norton to the left, and he pulling Norton to this. I'm talking the truth. I'm talking the truth. And that foolish talk from some of our leaders, yes, I'm pushing back against that foolish talk. It's foolish talk. And it's talk of fear. Fear of being called racist. Fear of not being politically correct. And so when you engage in that kind of misanalysis, you're expressing fear rather than expressing, I repeat, Indian people, the Indian working class, they face some of the things that all working class Chinese face, but they don't have to face the existential threat against their lives. They don't have to fear police coming in their communities and murdering their boys. They don't have to fear that. My God, doesn't life come for something? Can't you just not say that we are not? We are not. We are not affected the same way. Stop it, my comrades. Stop it. Get out of that fear factor and call it for what it is. I say this with immense love of my comrades. When I hear it coming from their mouth, I put my head in my hands and I said, my God, the power of fear. We are not facing the consequences of this dictatorship equitably. There is a clear and present danger for the darkest among us.
We have heard of similar efforts at stinging people, luring young men, young black men in certain communities, entrapping them. Case in point is a youngster, a Buxtonian youngster, who was lured to the gas station and invited into a car, which was quickly surrounded by, I would assume, special branch operatives. Next he knew, he was facing a charge of the same thing BACCHUS has been accused of, attempting to sell illegal firearms. There's a bigger force at work, if I can call it that. What do you say to our young men and women in the community to protect themselves from being entrapped?
What do I say to those of us who are leaders? We gotta deal with our young people. We gotta deal with our young people who understandably want some quick money. We have to deal with our young people who are in the armed forces, who believe that they have to carry out illegal orders. The other side is not going to speak to them. The government is interested in using them. The task is ours. It makes a difference when a member of parliament goes into a community and talks to young people. It makes a difference when Kilaki Amsterdam goes into a community and talks to young people. There was a young woman yesterday when we went in there. She gave an analysis, an on-target analysis of what transpired with the killing of Mr. BACCHUS. And then she turned to me and said that I know you will agree with me. What that says is that, first of all, young woman knows my politics. But second, and more important, is that I am there in our community. And my presence validates her. She doesn't have to listen to me on social media. I am there in the flesh. She's aligning our analysis with my, and it makes a difference that I was there in the flesh. Sometimes you don't have to put young people and sit down and lecture to them. Your mere presence, my brother, makes a difference. When I was a young man at 14, 15, I saw Walter Rodney. Light, unassuming man. To speak very much, she said, one day somebody will record that we were sitting here talking about how to change Guyana. I ran home and said to my aunt, I hear something very important here, and I want to join. And she said, so long as Teacher Sydney, meaning UC Guyana, is part of it, you are free to join. Age 15. I grew up in a village where I saw UC Guyana. We all knew he was important. We all knew he's important. He knew that this is an important man, but he came home every day. He taught us every day at the school and then lessons. He walked every day in the village. His mere presence in that village changed lives. My brother, who's older than me, Brother Malcolm Paris, former PNC minister, we were talking the other night, and he made the same point, that we were so lucky in that village, that man, he never lectured to us, but every day we saw him. Made a difference. And so sometimes we don't have to go and lecture to our young people, but if they see us, not just see us at the bar drinking 2 beers, that's, I'm not saying I drink beers. But if they see us coming into their communities and listening to them, it makes a difference, my brother. Makes a difference.
Thank you. It's now 8 hours 13. Usual time to open up the lines. Anything you want to touch on before we do that?
Well, I just want to say that I've noted that GCOM chair has decided, along with the 3 PPP commissioners, they make up the majority. The chair has thrown our support against a GCOM investigation of the 2020 elections. So the PPP came out against an investigation after promising one, and now the GCOM chair has come out against an investigation of the election. And our reasoning is that investigation of election is a matter for the court. But the very court tells GCOM that you have the power to fix things. And GCOM went ahead, and instead of accepting what the returning officer of Region 4 gave, said, we will fix it with a recovery. But then when it comes to investigating what happened, the GCOM chair said, that's a matter for the court, not a matter for GCOM. Another manifestation that the PPP and its agents at GCOM and other places do not want to touch the 2020 election. That's a victory for us. We can't force them to do it, but the fact that they're not doing is a victory for those of us who have said that the problem with the 2020 election was not what somebody saw Mingo doing and statements upon. The problem with the 2020 election is that it was rigged from top to bottom. And there are forces who are part of that rigging, who sit in government today, that don't want the nation to know that. It's a victory for us. Take our call.
Okay, I'll go to some voice notes. There are a number of voice notes. We'll play those and then we'll open up the lines for calls.
Good morning, Kodaki. Kodaki, you know something? It's so disturbing and worrying as an African Guyanese. Every time they have a murder by the police,
Call over the line. Hold the line, please. Good morning.
it's some African Guyanese youth. And you know what? The 2020 election that had so much political parties on the bandwagon. African Guyanese were in those political parties. And it's just the PNC and the WPA is be talking and doing things when these things happen. No other party leader the AFC and the rest of them who you don't see them, you don't hear the talking like African people in Guyana have no rights. That's how I look at things, and that's how it seems to me. And this is what I want to tell we African people. Get up, stand up, and fight for your rights. Fight for your children, because nobody would do it for you. Please, African people, get up. You're sleeping too much now. Get up. Get out of those church we got y'all blind. And y'all is not seeing what happening. And the church is just collecting your money because the church leaders them ain't even coming out and say anything. So it giving these people who parading as government the rights to do all what they're doing to people in this country, especially African people. African people, wake up. Wake up. Thank you.
Calling live, good morning.
Good morning, Kadaki. Good morning, Dr. Hinds. It breaks my heart to learn how that young man lost his life. And this reminds me of another sting operation a couple of years ago, where 3 black men was murdered on the seawall at Ivleri. They had an IC witness that was on the top of Everest Sports Club. And I can't remember if Selwyn Peters is listening, if he was the lawyer, or if it's Nigel Hughes. I don't know what happened to that investigation, where it went. This one is going to end up like that one too. And it's sad to know that Dr. Hinds and Kadaki, every single day you guys on the television, and people are not supporting you. Like yesterday, I was looking at you, Kadaki, you guys walking around, and there's no one coming out to support you guys. Something is wrong. Thank you.
Thank you for your call. Dr. Hinds, you want to respond to anything? You're muted.
No, I think both callers have made their points very clear. And I am particularly thankful for them for recognizing. I think the first caller makes what we call a heavy point. Heavy, and she sounds like a younger person. Every point, which is at the end of the day, you know who your friends are. So with the PNC and the WPA, as the young lady says, all these parties, it's only the PNC and the WPA that are dealing with the fundamental questions in our society, such as murder.
Calling live, good morning.
Morning, Kadaki. Morning, Dr. Hinds. 2 great Guyanese that we have had in a long while. Condolences to the BACCHUS family. Condolences also to the Headley family and all the others. But when we looked at Orange Boston and now this particular killing, they've only charged 1 officer. And we've got to look at that, where the other officers who are present and who are engaged in this illegal stuff need to be charged as well. So they're actually just satisfying you by saying, well, they're just charging 1 person. So it is the whole process that needs to be looked at. And we can't take our eyes off of it because they just offer up 1. When it comes to GCOM, why would we not participate in any election? We shouldn't. And that would be my message to WPA, PNC, AFC. Do not participate because they are setting the stage or have already set the stage to rig this thing. So we must not engage in any electoral
Caller, we're listening. Okay, that one is finished there. The lines remain open. 6225933 is the number to call. You're tuned to the Buxtonian Morning Time. The call from the music. Call you live. Good morning. Caller, 1 minute, please. Call you live. Call you live. Good morning.
Yes, good morning. I think this is time we take this fight to another level, because what is happening, people are focusing on the Africans, the African Guyanese. Right now, the only person you rolling drums is you for rolling drums. We need to come together and roll our drums in protest. We need to wake up all those ancestors, those warriors, to fight for us. We need to have some drums rolling from Coffee right up to Borbies in the some afternoon in protest. We can get together and link from village to village to village. We need to start it. It happened in the past and it can happen now. It's time we do something to deal with people, to take back what belongs to us. Years ago, as a little boy, they used to have a lot of things going on at Coffee. I ain't hearing, I ain't seeing things like that going on now. But we black people need to wake up. All these African churches and these big different, we need to come out and get together and start doing stuff. We need to start rolling our drums in protest.
Thank you, caller.
We need to roll our drums. That's all I have to say. Thank you. Good morning.
Thank you. Call you live. Good morning.
I'm Anatras.
Good morning, caller.
Good morning, Mr. Daki. Now, I want to make a few comments this morning quickly. First of all, people really taking advantage, because all we do is just talk a lot, talk, and we ain't doing nothing more, right? Because if we take action, these people will know they will get a good for themselves, right? So we have to take action, but all we do is sit down and talk, and that's why these people keep doing this nonsense all the time to us. Now, number one, watch out that police kill that boy, right? That was premeditated murder, right? He was planning ever since to kill that guy, right? And that nonsense to the acting commissioner saying, but in partial investigation, and that's madness, because same thing that he said with BACCHUS murder. What came out of it? Nothing came out of it. Right? Boston murder, nothing came out of it. Right? That is madness. And these people need to stand up. And they say if they don't stand up, they're going to sweep under the carpet the same way like in Boston, like the Henry boys, and all the rest of them. Because all we people doing is just talk, and then taking no action. Everything is irritate us, right? All we doing is the people taking advantage of us, because see that is all what we're doing, and these people don't understand just talking. You have to take action. That's the only way these people understand, right? Just sitting on a talk wouldn't solve no problem, because these people, I pass people. You see that I pass over people, but two black, I don't know what to call them. You see who they send behind nothing to walk behind nothing? Why do they send two of these people? But you see that I pass us, I have no respect for our people, because all we do is just talk all the time, talk, and if we don't stop talk and take action, that's eventually what will keep happening all the time. Repeat things and keep repeating all the time. It keep repeating itself all the while. And there's exactly what happening, because they're going to jump up at 2 morning, come out to test for a fancy show, and then they die up, everything close up, nothing more. To all in Boston murder, not no harm. It's too bad the carpet. One to the guy who went to jail for the murder, nothing you hear about, nothing. Everybody just relax. And that the same thing gonna happen with this boy Bacchus murder. If people don't stand up and continue and open their eyes and see what's going on, then they're gonna see the reality. These people don't have a damn and they don't care about nobody. That's the whole fullness. And we need to take a stand with that. That's my comment. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your call. Dr. Hinds?
I hope Mr. Arigill is still with us and that he's taping. I want him to tape what the comments these people are making and carry it to his people then.
Call it live. Good morning.
Hi, good morning. Good morning, Mr. Amsterdam and Dr. Hinds. Dr. Hinds, you were direct on the money this morning here with most of what you said. But let us look at the on the other side of the coin. While we are busy, while we are having new development, so to speak, on the other side of the coin, the PVP is busy. You know, they are busy having other things done. While we are crying out, whilst we are shouting there in Haslington or Coven John, there's a new development. A rumor now is raising there in regards to the judiciary. It's just a matter of time for that to kick into action. And then we will, by the time we finish down there to go to that other side, these people are already occupying the space, most of the space. So it's a well organized move by this PPP. They deliberately, I'm not saying that they hold that guy hand and pull the trigger or send him there to pull the trigger or what the case may be. They're deliberately not intervening and allowing things to escalate because they have other things. While we're busy there, they're at the other end. You understand? So these people, well, they know what they're doing. They know what they're doing. I don't know if the police force changed, but it is still puzzling me what that guy was doing there, that particular rank from that department. How he get involved in such operation. I would like to hear what have to say about that. What a special branch is doing in an operation like that, not just to be pulling trigger in the place. A special branch run and supposed to be nowhere around those type of facility. Period. But that's the next story. Now we're looking now at GCOM there, as you said that what you said there. You understand? It didn't come as a surprise, and I agree with that previous caller for the opposition to send a clear message. There's a credit thing. There will be no election or participation in any election by the opposition. There will be a bloated list or the same list. There will be no participation in any election. Period. I leave it right at that because I don't think there will be anybody coming to the table or any formal or logical discussion in those two areas. Period. The opposition will have to stick their foot in and send a clear message. We're not going to the polls if there's a credit thing and if there's the same list. Story done. That's my take, Dr. Hinds and Kadiki. Thank you.
Thank you, caller. It's now 8 hours 31. I think we have some voice notes. Yes. Let me see this one.
Kadaki, good morning. My response to that, killing eye for eye, tooth for tooth. That's all I have to say.
Eye for eye, tooth for tooth. That's all the caller has to say.
Good morning, Mr. Kadaki, and listening viewers. What Dr. Hinds is saying is so true.
Call over the line.
Yeah.
Indian people not feeling it because sting operation is not taking place in Indian. villages, in Indian communities. That is so true. But you think Indian people don't have problem? A lot. The most drugs is in Indian area. The most thief is in Indian area. All the bad things going on right in these Indian villages. You go to all the station when it's Cody and see the most people that going to court is Indian people. What they have done to QUINTON BACCHUS, it's really, really heart-wrenching, not heartbreaking, heart-wrenching. That young man, I know him very mannerly. Everybody got children with butts, but he was not a bad person. And if so be the case that it comes so that you got to shoot him, why not his hand? Why not his foot? I see they going to people who get murder, and them are shooting them down because they commit a murder. Them want to shoot down and then them are doing down. You get all the pickpockets on the streets, and they know them. Them are killing them. They're leaving them for harass people. But a man won't get no criminal record or no nothing. They're going to shoot him so much a bullet and kill him. I don't understand. Once you is a mother, once you're a parent or a potential mother or a parent, you have to feel for somebody else because today is me, tomorrow is somebody else. You never know.
Yes, caller, your life.
Bless, good morning, brothers Kadaki and Professor Hinds, the diaspora and Guyana, good morning, everyone. The topic, you made a point this morning, Dr. Hinds, about roads. And I wanted to talk about that, but you put it all in a nutshell. But also I'd like to elaborate a little bit more on that. You see, this is a war, and people need to understand that this is a war. It's a war in the minds, it's a war with ideology, it's a war with racism and all these kind of things. And wars, everyone needs to be everyone needs a role. We all need a role in this war. And they are generals and they are soldiers. And soldiers are more effective on the front line, and generals are more effective at the back, making plans, strategies, and orders and so on. So people need to understand that this is a war, and we can't expect our generals to be in the field and be active, and we need to be patient with our generals. So the people who are making the decisions don't think that they're taking too long to do whatever they're doing and get out the picture. That we need to listen. We need to listen to our generals and act upon the whenever they set to, because they're the ones who do the planning. But Kadaki, you're a very, very good strategist. You're a very good thinker, and I think you should continue the good work. And but just remember, stealth is the art of the day. If you can't put everything out there, stealth is the art of the day. Thank you, sir.
Thank you for your call. Some other voice note. Some of the voice notes that are not loading on the computer, I don't know why. Anything you wanted to say, Dr. Hinds, while I try to figure out these few voice notes?
Well, a few callers ago, the guy talked about the PPP operating on several fronts. And, while we are engaged over here, they're escalating over there, and so on. And he's on the spot. And that is why I started today by saying we want a broad movement so that we are covering all the bases, because that call is on spot. This is not a one-dimensional struggle. It's a broad struggle, because we are dealing with a government that is prepared to use all the institutional and non-institutional power that it has at its disposal.
Thank you. Caller, you're live.
Hello?
Caller, you're live. Good morning.
Hi, good morning.
Now, the pandemic is over. And I was wondering if Mr. Norton is listening, that we have the square of the revolution. We have not kept a single meeting there, right? To appease the supporters, the coalition supporters of what's going on in this country and what, we must be aware of and what we must do and so forth. Secondly, is that we keep talking about the bloated list and the correct thing. What is there in place to get rid of these things and this person? We're not hearing nothing about this. And I think this is one of our opportune moments to go to the square of the revolution and keep some sort of public meeting to let the nation know what we must be aware of and what is going on in this country. That's my contribution. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your call. You tune to the Buxtonian morning time. It is now 8 hours 39. And the lines are open for your calls. This morning we're discussing, among other things, the murder of QUINTON BACCHUS and the police's attempt to cover up, etc. Let me get some volume on this one.
The law into their hands. Let the law take its course and deal with it. Morning, Kadaki. What the officer do to Mr. Bacchus, it was wrong to take the law into their hands. Let the law take its course and deal with it and find him guilty. The people have a right to go there to protest. Whether he was bad, he was good, he's alive. He's someone's son.
That one went very low. Call it live, good morning.
Hi, good morning, Kadaki, Dr. Hinds, all listeners. I was thinking, right, the atrocities that the PPP government literally gotten away with for the 23 years. I believe that it emboldened them to the point where now, like, they think they're untouchable and they're invincible. They should have been made to pay for all the stuff they did for the 23 years. So much to a point that the PPP shouldn't have had a party to contest the 2020 elections because all the hierarchy hands in it, all of them have blood on their hands, all of them is thieves as far as I'm concerned. And things that Jagdio there was allowed to get away with make this little fool, Banty Lion, he aspiring to be like Jagdio or worse. They shouldn't be. All of them should have been behind bars. The young ones coming up now would have known to keep in line and do the right thing because you pay for what you do. Thank you. That's my contribution for today.
Thank you for your call. Let me remind you that on the 4th of July, CARICOM Day, we are going to have a protest, a general protest in front of the Buxton Public Road there, and we are encouraging you to come join us or stage your own protest in your locality to highlight the misbehaviors of this government, including the discrimination, the targeting of our young black men, the distribution of resources.
Good morning, Mr. Kadaki.
In a lopsided manner. Call you live, good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Kadaki. Good morning, Dr. Hinds. If a person using the police force what plan y'all get that a person going to police force, if a person want to kill somebody, and he use the police force for a personal vendetta against somebody. That is what, because you get into either this buy, and the buy that he killed at a personal thing at where you name club, there was in a tangle. You understand? So what did police force can do to get out these people within the police force? We want to use the police force as their personal vendetta against people. What the police force got to do to that?
Dr. Hinds, you want to respond? Thank you, caller.
You know, the caller asks a legitimate question, but the point is, the call is assuming the police force is based on principle, and that what happened there, the police force doesn't have anything to do with it. No, the police force is harboring people like that. This young man, as we've been hearing, has been committing a lot of offenses, shooting up in the communities. And the police force has him there because he's an asset to them. The police force is not going to kick somebody like that out. They want more people like that shooting. So the premise of the caller's question is wrong, that the police force want to cleanse itself of those people. No, the police force of your father, your grandfather, and even the police force of your generation is not the police force today. The police force today is a political instrument of the ruling party. So once you start there, the question of what the police force can do to rid itself is a non-question, really. You know, the police force want crooks inside. It wants these aggressive young men and so forth. They're not in the business of cleansing themselves of those elements.
Thank you. As a matter of fact, like you rightly said, Dr. Hinds, the police force actually facilitates this kind of behavior. There are other policemen who have personal grouses with people, and they don't go out killing them because they know they don't have the kind of protection that these have, right? The lines remain open, 6225933. There are a few other voice notes I am trying to get played.
Kidaki, good morning. My response
was played already.
I took for two. That's all I have to say.
Voice note.
Good morning, Mr. Kadaki. Good morning, everyone in the diaspora. I have always said that even though we may have a issue about what is morally correct, culturally correct, some things we don't like about children wearing their pants down to their waist, and, you know, different things we don't like with different culture, the tattoos some people don't like, you know. But I think Skeng, as vulgar as his lyrics may be, ended up like Saddam Hussein and Manuel Noriega for somebody else's scapegoats, for somebody else's plot. I have always said to people that I know, I says there's no way bad boy, gunman, robber man, gonna come in a national park with 50, 60 police in the crowd and bust off their gun as Batman. And cameras all about the place. No. So I deduce from that it had to have been, the probability that it had to have been phantom-affiliated police, rogue police officers. Because they shot their guns without even concern. They were looking into cameras and shooting their guns. They weren't hiding. Shoot it once, come back, shoot it twice, shoot it thrice. Because, first of all, they felt comfortable among their own police kind. Bad boy don't do that when police all around the place. Which bad boy when robber man gonna do that, gunman gonna do that? So that alone, that MO revealed a whole lot. You know, Skeng come and gone. And as much as we may not like Skeng, Skeng is not the one that's influencing the children at large school. And, you know, Skeng is not the one that's been killing 1,480 black children. So we've got bigger problems than Skeng, but we must see that those scissors on the table are set up there for a bigger scheme to criminalize our youth. Now we can see the hidden hand in the national park, shooting their guns. Special branch, because they got a special mission to come to the national park, a special agenda to criminalize our youth and make it look like it's bad elements that Skeng inspired. How Skeng ain't inspired nobody? This type of criminality has been happening before. Well, who inspired this boy here to kill BACCHUS? It ain't Skeng. Who inspired all of those death squads and all of those political officials who've been killing black people? It ain't Skeng. As much as we may dislike what Skeng has to say, we must also realize that if Skeng never came to Guyana, that vulgarity, that vindictiveness, that way of killing people with impunity always existed in Guyana. Always existed in Guyana. What was Roger Khan and them doing? How old was Skeng when Roger Khan was doing what they were doing and the rest of them? When Waddle and them were killed. So we have to understand that we have always had this vulgarity, but now we're seeing the big...
Call over the line.
Good morning. I'm actually calling from New York. You know, I don't understand what is going on in Guyana. It's like every day you open it, there's some sort of discrimination, some sort of thing with the courts. Now they're targeting the judicial system. You know, it is unconstitutional. How can you want to revert a chancellor from our present, acting chancellor from our present position down back to like courts of appeal? Guyanese people need to wake up. They need to take the streets. You know, we cannot sit back. You know, the kingdom of heaven suffered violence, and violence was taken by force. It is time for us to get out there and take back what rightfully belongs to us. These people, they get away with murder. They get away with all the transshipment point that they turn Guyana into. You know, they get away with installing a false government. And now it's like they just do anything and they just get away with it. I read something the other day with the Aubrey Norton actually going to have a meeting with the president, and he had to park on the street. Park on the street and walking. Come on, people, we need to wake up. We need to wake up. You know, I'm calling from New York. We need to wake up, my brother. We need to wake up. That's my contribution this morning.
Thank you for your contribution, sir. You return to Coffee's voice.
I hope that we caught this special branch person in the crowd shooting his gun. How could a special branch police come and shoot up a place with so many children? What was his agenda? 24/7 is a special branch working for the state. Here is the state criminalizing our culture. Here is the government again using the police arm and the police to criminalize, incite criminality in the culture of dancehall, in the culture of reggae, in the youth cultural activities. Here is the state of the arm manipulating. Who is to say that Minister of Sports Charles Ramson is not up to the same thing with the hits and jams? And who is to say that other ministers have been indicated before are not doing the same thing now? So these are things we got to look at. And while lastly on it, I want to ask this question. The young man that received 5 shots, BACCHUS, was he standing when he got those 5 shots? Because witnesses said he was begging for his life before he was shot. So if he was begging for his life with his hands up, How far away was the police from him? Were the first 3 shots necessary? If a person has his hands up, were the first 3 shots necessary? Pie, 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 as we heard them. So the first 3 shots appeared not to have been necessary. So the first 3 shots indicate murder unnecessarily. And if that is so, then what is the need for the last 2 shots? The 4th shot and the 5th shot? Or the 6th shot? Was he lying down or was he still standing? And if he was lying down and the police was standing over him, at that point, why didn't they take him to the ambulance? At that time, why didn't they try, being that he was already subdued by the first 3 shots, why didn't they seek to preserve life? To ensure that he lives, to protect his life as the function as the police as they swear to do. He continued to what? As one said, empty the magazine on him, man. Finish it. Finish off it. So we see again, premeditated murder, and the 4th and the 5th shot make sure he's dead. So like people are saying, there's no need for a complaints commission. We need to go straight to the magistrate court on this because this is murder, murder, murder. From the first shot, it's murder. If the man had his hands up and is surrendering, according to witnesses. And based upon the time periods in between the shots, we can tell that there was contemplation as whether to continue or not to continue. After the 3rd shot, there was a long period, which means the shooter was contemplating what to do next. Whether to preserve life or whether to extinguish life completely. How close was the shooter to the victim after the 3rd shot? Thank you for listening. And at what angles did the bullets enter the body?
People gotta realize that as long as Barrett Jagdeo running this place is gonna be in this mess all the time, right? Number one, we can't blame Irfan because we don't know Irfan is a lame duck and he's a rubber stamp by himself, right? He gotta take direction. We all know is this wicked man Jagdeo doing all this wickedness. And the opposition need to take a more stance to see what is going on, and he needs to take more action. He's the leader of the opposition. He can't just write in and just talking. He needs to take action too, because these people don't understand talk, especially Jagdeo. Jagdeo don't understand talk. He understand actions. Now, what the cost of living high, killing every single body, down there to supporters and all, everybody crying out every single day, going to shopping, going to the market, everything raising every single day, thing gone skyrocket high, right? So the thing is only one set of people hollering or crying, is every single body crying, everybody feeling the squeeze, right? And the payment you're working for, the salary working for, it cannot compensate because sometime before half of the month, sometime in 2 weeks, it start refinish, the grocery finish because how things expensive. It's very ridiculous, right? They're talking about 4 days giving jobs to 40,000. Come on, 40,000 any money. You're going to the market 40,000 right now. You barely come out the market 2 or 3 black bags, 40,000 done. There's not no big money. These people need to wake up. They're giving out 100,000, 150,000, you're going on like there's $1 million or there's a great lot of money you're talking about. Come on, this nonsense. There's not no kind of money you're speaking about with this cost of living, right? All they're doing is just doing a set of roads into structure. People can't eat into structure. People can't eat hotels. These people need to come real and come on and think. And I agree with the leader of the opposition. Let Gladys Singh move from there because she's not a wicked woman. She's very wicked. And she not need to be there for no other election in this country. So that's my comment this morning. And I believe the leader of the opposition to take a more stand and take a more form to see what's going on, and you need to take more action and just stop talking and think, bring out people there to protest.
shut the place down or something, do something serious. Let these people see that you mean business. Not just talking and saying, not talking and writing a letter and keeping press conference. This nonsense, these people don't understand it. Especially this wicked man, Jack View. He understands it and you take action. That's my comment. Thank you very much.
Good morning, Kidaki. Good morning, Dr. Hinds. Good morning, viewers. My contribution this morning is someone like Harry Gill talking about inciting. Harry Gill should have been walking up the courts when he recorded that sleeping policeman who worked so many hours. Good morning. So many hours and fell asleep. The policeman did not give Harry Gill permission to put him on social media, and he did. He should have took that recording to the commissioner, as he would like to record your program and take it to the commissioner. Why didn't he did that? He should have been walking up the steps. Somebody like Harry Gill. Good morning. Have a nice day.
I have a few more voice notes. I think 2 of them, and then let me see.
Mr. Kodaki, good morning. Mr. Hinds, good morning. Good morning to all the listeners. One important question was raised this morning, and I think a lot of people didn't gravitate it or they didn't recognize that before. The question is, how come a special branch rank could be involved in such an operation? All the years we know special branch ranks is do undercover work. They would inform the regular police who would go after perpetrators, go after events that's illegal, right? Things that are against the law and things like that. They are not, they forefront, confront, they don't confront situations and deal with them. That's not their job. These people is special branch rank, they seem they in rum shop drinking rum just to get information. So the whole thing is that they go seeking information to forward to the relevant section of the force who would go after issues and who got to arrest who and try to stop what illegal act is about to occur. So he being there, it's more than just a policeman being down there, right? It's more than that. It's more personal. That's all we could say about it. And there's the whole bottom line with this whole thing. He is supposed to be down there. So the main idea he did down there is more than just a policeman being out there doing police duty. Amen.
We have another voice note to play. While I try to get it up, Dr. Hinds, I want to read this comment to you. I hope I find it back. That's a way of disappearing. All right, in short, the caller, the commenter, the listener, the viewer, is saying that people are not supporting WPA in a more dominant way, if I can say that, because WPA is not showing them the way to economic empowerment, etc., etc. I wanted to get the comment exactly. It's lost in my software here. But I don't know if you've been following the chat.
No, I have not.
All right. I've lost it, but I should find it back. It is now 2 minutes past the 9 o'clock hour. There's at least one more voice note that I want to play. Strange enough, I usually have this problem of some voice notes not coming up on the computer. I don't know why. There must be special.
Good morning, gentlemen. I believe it is time now for Peter to pay for Paul, and Paul must pay for all. Any Peter you see on the road, give him what he dues until you catch the Paul, and then the Paul is going to pay for all. And if you start approaching every Peter today and give him what belongs to him, those black policemen, within 1 month, this thing is going to stop. Okay? Peter pay for Paul and Paul pay for all. Because you can never find the right man that do the act. So let Paul pay for all. That's my take.
Thank you, caller. Dr. Hinds, you want to respond or comment?
No, well, I
Find the
just
right
want
man
to,
that do the act. So let Paul pay.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to address the caller who says people are not supporting the WPA because we're not talking to them about economic empowerment. I don't know where the caller lives or what he or she listens to, but I would tell the caller that we don't want to lose him. So if he is not supporting the WPA because we're not telling them about economic empowerment, then he goes and supports another party that is telling them about that. Maybe, I don't know. What I know is that the WPA has taken on the issue of direct empowerment of Guyanese people from the oil resources. I don't know what the caller is listening to or what he's not listening to. But if he's not satisfied with the WPA, then support another party of the opposition that he feels is doing that.
Thank you. It's now 4 minutes past the 9 o'clock hour. Let's wrap up, sir.
Yeah, that's my wrap up. Good morning, Mr. Gill. I hope you did an excellent day. Please take it to the police right away as soon as we are finished here. And I'm open, Mr. Gill. I'm open to talking to your supporters and to incite them, to incite your supporters to join us in the struggle against dictatorship. I'm open. So tape me and play it for them. Not just take it to the commissioner. Share it to your people. I'm not interested in inciting our people. I'm interested in inciting your people. People support.
Thank you for your time and your closing remarks, Dr. Hinds. Viewers, thank you for joining us today. Do have a pleasant rest of the day. Join Dr. Hinds tonight for Politics 101 at 6:30. And as we continue to examine the issues. Tomorrow morning, it's going to be, Thursday? Join me for another program of Buxtonian Morning.